guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Julia. I've mentioned it a little bit on this channel, but I am extremely into role-playing games, and I've amassed many dice sets over just the past few months. Really, in quarantine, my roommates and I have been doing a lot of online ordering of dice sets, so I've really expanded my collection in the last few months. And after seeing other clever, creative people do interesting ways of picking their TBR, I thought, what if I had a list of books to choose from and then rolled dice to decide which book I read? So I'm going to put my reading fate into the dice god's hands and let my dice collection choose my August TBR. Now, I'm sure I will be reading more books than just these, but it's nice to have some guidelines for what I'm reading. I used to just kind of read whatever I wanted, but I like a more structured TBR now, just so I make sure that I'm actually reading the books that I said I would read and also reading the books that I own. I like this new setup that I'm doing because you can actually see like my TBR in my nonfiction shelf. This is my lovely dice tray that someone on Etsy custom made for me. I will link to their shop down below. First we're gonna roll a d4. So I've got my very first dice set that I bought at a comic book shop in the town that I used to live in for college. This has gotten me through many a homebrew game that I used to play with my college crew. I'm still playing it actually. For d4, that is romance books. Let's see what we got here. A 4, and that is The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. Okay, I'm super excited because the publisher contacted me on Edelweiss and sent me a free ebook, which is the first time that that's happened, so I'm really excited to read this book. C.L. Polk wrote Witchmark, which I enjoyed a few years back, and I think this is bi, but I'm not sure, and it is set in a magical world where this woman is trying to avoid being married and having children and letting her magic be yoked. And so she's trying to find like freedom and romance at the same time. So I'm super excited to read that. Next, for my D6, which is nonfiction, I'm using my Pela Heartwing dice. Pela Heartwing is my player character for my Star Wars RPG that I play with my roommates. My favorite RPG I've ever done, and these are custom done. They're black with pink stars because she's this really obscure Star Wars race which has only been mentioned in the comics and the novels that are all pink skinned, so that's why the stars are pink. And she's a pilot. Sorry, I really love her. Oh, and it's powered by the apocalypse, so it's a hack of Powered by the Apocalypse, so we only roll 2d6, which is why I only have 2d6. So for nonfiction, I will be reading, can you see? Can I see? A 1, which is And the Band Played On. Alright, I've attempted to read this book before. This is an extremely comprehensive book about the AIDS epidemic in the 80s, and it was written when AIDS was still happening, and the author, Randy Schultz, had AIDS himself, and I think he might have passed away due to AIDS complications. This is a heavy tome, but also one that I've been meaning to read for a long time, so I will do my best to tackle it once more. Next, for the D8, I think we'll go with this dice set that I got for free from Kraken Dice. Kind of like a smoky gray with pink. Cool thing about Kraken is that all the highest numbers on their dice have a Kraken on them. I got this dice set for free when I ordered a different dice set, which you'll see later. You can tell I don't play actual D&D very much because I can never remember what the D8 is. Okay, it's the pyramid one. I'm gonna get all these geek boys in my DMs. D8 is novellas or poetry. The one book of poetry is Trouble the Line by Derek Austin, which I just bought. So let's see what we got here. A 6, which is The Dark Side of the Sun. Oh my gosh, I didn't think I was actually gonna get this. So this is one of Terry Pratchett's first books with the wild like Josh Kirby covers. It's like a proto Discworld book. I don't even remember where I bought this. I probably got this like 7 years ago. Yeah, it's 159 pages, that's fine. When I read The Carpet People, I thought it was super interesting the way that he was working on a lot of ideas that would come to fruition in the Discworld books. Like, some ideas were like 20 years before he actually wrote them, so I'll be interested to see how he plays with ideas in that book. Alright, next is D10. think I'll use my gumdrop dice for this one. I got these for my birthday from my mom. They have little gumballs inside of them. D10, I know this one. D10 is historical fiction, which I've been reading a lot of in the past few years. Oh, it's a 2, which is Outrun the Moon by Stacey Lee. Okay, Stacey Lee is one of my favorite authors this year. She writes historical fiction with Asian women. Love her. And this book is set before and during the Great San Francisco earthquake of 1906. I'm very excited about that. I know the main character is very feisty and sure of herself, so I'm so excited to read it. Next, for the D12, I'm using my Ada Lovelace dice set. These are also from Kraken Dice. I bought these and then got the smoky ones for free. I don't know why they chose like a gold for Ada Lovelace theme, but they have like, they've got like cool stuff inside of them. Ada Lovelace is my favorite historical figure, so I knew I had to buy a dice set that was named after her. Sci-fi, D12. I thought that I read a lot of sci-fi, and then looking back at my stats in the past few years, I actually don't read it as much as I thought I would, but I had enough to write out 12 of them, so let's see what we got here. A 12. See the Kraken. It's a 12. Which is Lock In by John Scalzi. John Scalzi, he writes like really interesting, positive sci-fi. He wrote Red Shirts, which is like, what if all the ensigns from Star Trek were the main characters of a book, and we're really mad about the writers of Star Trek killing them off all the time? This book is about people who are born with a disability that locks their consciousness inside of their bodies. So they put their consciousness into an android, which they then use to go about their daily lives in. And the main character is, I think, an FBI agent? Yes, an FBI agent. And the really interesting thing about this book is that the main character is not gendered. So as you're reading, you get to sort of decide what their gender is, or if they even have a gender. And it's also hinted, but not made a big deal of, that they're black. I think that it could have been, I mean, I haven't read it yet, but based on the readings of it that I've done, I think it could have been more specific, but I will have to read it and find out. It's good because I've had this book on my shelf for a really long time. And lastly is the D20. I will be using my confetti dice set, which I also got from my mom for my birthday. Here's the D20. It barely has any flecks of confetti in it, but oh well. You're probably wondering, where's the fantasy? You read a lot of fantasy. Well, it's here because I had enough fantasy novels on my TBR and that I owned to do 20 of them. So we're gonna roll this and see what happens. 4. Fire Logic by Lori J. Marks. I've also been waiting to read this for forever. It's one of those series where the first book came out in like 2004 or something, and the last book came out like in 2019. So it's good that I'm reading it now, I guess, so that I'm not having to wait several years for the series to be finished. I guess Lori J. Marks and Megan Whalen Turner have that in common, although Megan Whalen Turner's not yet finished her series. That's fine, take your time, Megan. But I've heard that Fire Logic is set in a world where queerness is normalized, there's a lot of great friendships and an interesting magic system, and it's the first book in a 4-book series, so I'm excited to read that one and see if I'm interested in pursuing the series. That is my August TBR. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a really great time putting it together, and I hope you also enjoyed my dice set. That is all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.